Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. We've got an Accounts Advanced one for you today. This is for the ePack release ep4.05.03. We have up to half an hour available to take you through the updates. We've got quite a bit to cover, so we probably will use the whole half an hour. Today's presenter is Anthony Launchbury, our Senior Education and Media Consultant. And I'm Tom Jeffrey, one of the Education and Media Technicians. Tony's going to take you through the content. I'll be here to monitor your questions that come in and also to make sure everything runs smoothly. In terms of your questions, you'll see you've got the control panels there for Zoom. You've got the Q&A option to submit your questions, and then I will look to put those to Tony. We're going to have a Q&A session at the end, and any questions that we don't answer during the session will go into a Q&A document, and that will accompany the recording of the webinar. We are recording, so that will go onto the knowledge base, and it will also go onto our YouTube channel. You've got the raise hand option there if you wanted to ask a question live via a microphone, and keep an eye on the chat field. We have got a PDF to share with you, which has got the release notes. And anything else, any other comments that I think are relevant for you, I'll put in the chat field there as well. So that's the housekeeping out of the way. I'll hand over to Tony now, and we'll have a look at the agenda. Hi, Tony.
Hi there, Tom. Thanks for the introduction, everybody. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the webinar. As Tom said there, feel free to ask questions as we go through. There will be a Q&A session at the end. And I'm sure Tom will be asking questions as we go through as well, and making sure that you've got the information that we think you need. All right, so I won't read through what you see on screen. It's pretty straightforward, but that's what we're going to be covering today. And we're looking at the aspects of the ePack release, and the main areas that you need to know. This is a Accounts Advanced release for corporates, and that will include entities reporting under IFRS 101, 102, 105, and IFRS as well. This is not a charity and academy webinar, solely for corporate entities reporting under 101, 102, 105, and IFRS. So, what's the main areas? Well, before we get there, just cover something again that Tom just mentioned there, which is the release notes, and when can you get your hands on this? Well, the ePack itself was released on the 2nd of September, so a couple of weeks ago, or a week ago yesterday. Now, if you are an IT contact or a AP contact, you should be able to go onto the knowledge base and download this material. And when you download this material, you will have access to that PDF that Tom just mentioned, which will be the ep4.05.03 release notes. Ash Goldsmith, the product owner, and his team spend a lot of time putting these notes together, making sure that we get the right highlights in there and the important need-to-know information. I promise you, it's not the granular information of the ePack with all the fixes. It's just what the management team say that you as users definitely need to know. So Tom's going to make that available to you. So please grab a copy of it if you haven't got access to the ePack release on the knowledge base, because if you don't have if you're not IT contact or an AP contact, just take the PDF and share it that way. Okay. All right. So that's just a little bit there of housekeeping about the release notes. Moving on to the release itself, we're going to start off looking at the primary statements. Now you can see on screen here that we've got some areas there with the balance sheet, continuation areas, and restated text. These are areas that's just been updated or fixed within statements. So if you are looking for that fix with continuation headers, which I'm sure a few of you will be, then make sure we apply that ePack to your file. Now, I'll be in a file later. So if you want me to show you how to target a specific disclosure rather than taking all the updates, then put a question in the question field and I'll show you how to update a particular disclosure within the accounts. Save you a bit of time there. You've also got the consolidated statement of financial position there. The reserves calculation has been corrected to include a non-controlling interest. So that's the main areas on the primary statements. Moving on to the notes, there is a lot more here. This is solely looking at content for IFRS 101, 102, and 105. You can see there a large area of it is looking at the detailed profit and loss section for a 105 file, specifically looking at the rounding there. So previously there was a issue with the rounding tolerance and clear roundings within the detailed profit and loss. Within this release, it includes the fix. So please make sure you take the update if you're having those rounding issues on a 105 entity. There's also down the bottom there a debtors note for iXBRL tagging Irish entities only. So just corrected some auto tags there. So again, please make sure you are updating that content and taking those knowledge library updates. Now, whilst we are on or mentioning iXBRL there, a major part of this release is a new taxonomy. Okay, so I was going to skip from, I might come back to this in a moment, and we'll come back to there. So we've got a new 2021 taxonomy. Now, currently this is only being released for the UK. There isn't an Irish version yet. However, I'm sure there will be within the coming months. However, for the UK entities at the moment, please make sure that you are applying the new taxonomy as of today, because as of the release, that is now the effective taxonomy to be applied to those files. You can see there in the details, no equivalent has been made available. There's other areas there with the Companies House Authentication Code, and you've also got the contents page for Irish entities. There's a few areas in there that are definitely worthwhile making sure we do apply the update. It's going to give us, again, those enhancements within tagging and also publishing our accounts to Companies House as well. Now, just moving back through to the most detailed disclosures there, there's other areas as well, just to point out the impact of the reporting standards. IFRS 16, our reconciliation table has been added to the note. So for people that are looking out for that, again, that's within this ePack. So make sure we are taking those updates. Now, this is just the extract of the main core bit. So if anyone's taking screenshots here, there are additional areas of interest potentially within the release notes. So probably best just to have a look through the PDF instead. All right, so that's a quick summary of the general updates, but the main part of the update really is looking at the NotebuilderAdvanced tool. Now, a lot of work has gone into this lately to make it a little bit more user-friendly, to increase the options of tools you've got available to you. Effectively, the development team went through and looked at, okay, how could we improve the user experience? How could we improve additional features within the NoteBuilder tool? So what they've done is taken upon that feedback, and they've included quite a few areas. Now, the top two here will be for those eagle eyes. You probably are quite aware of the alignments. I think with the alignment of the current year and prior columns, the old NoteBuilder note was out by about 1 millimeter to the standard content from CaseWare. Some of you may not be fussed with that. Some of you, that's quite important too. So CaseWare have gone through now and made sure that that spacing is exactly the same. So when you're looking at CaseWare standard content compared to the content that you create, it is millimeter perfect now, okay? So little bits like that have been included in, but also there's areas where there's improvements to loading in of the NoteBuilder notes between versions. So if you're on an older version or a newer version, and the compatibility issues have been fixed. So now you can have a NoteBuilder note that will work on a later version without any issues. So that's going to be very useful, obviously, when we move to working papers 2021, potentially towards the end of this year. Right, so that's some of the points there, and I'm going to go through and give you some examples of this and show you on screen. So if there's any areas that aren't very clear from these notes, then I will be going through and giving you a few examples, definitely pointing out spacing areas, so you can see clearly the differences that's been made. Also, and these come onto probably, again, really important areas, continuation headers. When we had really small NoteBuilder notes where it's fit within the page, then that was never a problem, continuation headers. But as people started to use NoteBuilder more, started making more complex notes, you started to notice that the continuation headers weren't doing exactly what you wanted, or they weren't there when you went onto the second page. So the development team have spent time now going through and building those continuation headers. So when you're working with your own custom content, it will make sure that's now the headers now populated on page 2 or page 3, depending on how many pages that note spans across. Other areas as well, I mean, just to make it a little bit more user-friendly, the user text there is here. They've just kept it in line with the standard content within the notes and disclosures within the accounts. So what I mean by that is previously within NoteBuilder, you had the green cells already activated. Well, on the new version, you now activate them, so they're shown. Now, I'll give you a nice visual example of that on screen so you can see the differences. But really what the development team has just tried to do is just make it a little bit more user-friendly, more consistent with the standard content. So all your users know exactly where to go and what to click on to get the user text paragraphs pop up. The other bit there as well, just go back quickly, is the bullet points. This is an area previously within the NoteBuilder notes that you could activate the bullet points. It took a little bit of work, whereas now you can activate the bullet points very easily and add second, third, fourth bullet points throughout notes and disclosures using enable editing. You still need to go into enable editing to use that bullet point feature. However, now it works. So again, I'll show you that within the notes, and I'll show you in comparison to an old note to the new note, so you can see exactly that difference. Cyclic error fixes, that's for the calculation columns from within our profiles. So for anyone who hasn't used NoteBuilder before, there is a profile option in there, so you can load some templates onto the NoteBuilder note. So you could start off with a 2-column note, or you could start off with a sofa style note or something along those lines. And what we've done is updated the tech and how the calculations work, so they automatically update references so the subtotals can't get stuck in a cyclic calculation. That was an error that popped up previously on examples like the tangible fixed asset profile that's on there, and other areas as well. But again, that's fixed, and that will make sure that that's a little bit more easier to set up in future. All right, so other areas there as well, decimal precision override. This is an area that is definitely going to be used from the clients, probably using, well, not probably, but using IFRS, the IFRS AccountsAdvanced template, specifically for areas like when we're looking at share capital or so on, where maybe the share capital is quite a small figure in comparison to maybe the totals within the statement. So maybe the statements are rounded to thousands, and within the share capital note, you want to show decimals and want to be able to control that decimal level within a particular note, but not have decimals shown throughout the whole of the accounts. So now within NoteBuilder, you can activate a separate level of decimals for that note to give you more detailed disclosures and build more value into those disclosures and make them easier for the end users to understand what they are trying to say. Other areas as well, and this is a quite key one, is the ability now to show and hide content within your NoteBuilder notes. So what I'm trying to say by that is that if I create a NoteBuilder note now, if I don't want it to show in a small filing copy, I can just click a button and say, don't show in a small filing copy. So, and previously what you had to do was go to remove it, like hide the note, remove the note, change it to small filing copy, prepare the accounts, go back to the full copy and add the note back in, which is a bit of a rigmarole. So they've looked at that and they've built in the feature now, so we can easily manage that content depending upon what accounts we're viewing. All right, so let's go through and open up a CaseWare file. So hopefully everyone can see the Elstrom Limited on the screen. That should be there now. Is that clear your side, Tom?
That's coming up. That's great.
Perfect, excellent. Always, boy, it's not showing up. In here, then we've already got a part build in the public file. It's December year-end file. What we'll first do is we'll look into the accounts themselves. Okay. Actually, probably before we do, if anyone doesn't know how to get to NoteBuilder from this view, it's just here on the other docs. But we'll come back and I'll show you another way to access it in a moment. From FinStats here, what I've already set the file up with is I set it up with a standard CaseWare debtors note and an alternative version. So the alternative version here, and maybe why this one's been set up, is because, okay, there's actually a balance within the Crude Income. So this year, then maybe that's not 272, it's 222, and there's 500 in Crude Income. And we'll say that, okay, for whatever reason that we've been asked to disclose that separately. So we've created our own NoteBuilder note so we can disclose that. Now, one of the things that we saw from the old NoteBuilder notes is that even though to my eyesight, looking at this, it looks very, very similar. If you zoom in a little bit and then you can scan there, you can see there the difference within the width between the current year and the prior year column. If I use my mouse so you can get a visual on there, you can see the difference there between the size of the columns. Also, what you can see is there's a difference between the gap between the subtotal and the top or the bottom line of the analysis. So again, you can see it's just with my mouse cursor, there's slightly different size in there, a couple of millimeter, not massive, but there's a little bit of a space difference in there. So this is one of the areas that have been fixed with using new NoteBuilder notes. So now that space in between and between the current year and prior year and the total line and the last line of the analysis will be very much exactly, well, they should be exactly the same, which we'll see in a moment. Now, one of the areas for us when we look at this really, and it may be for this is for existing NoteBuilder users, is okay, I've created this debtors note and I don't have to rebuild it in new NotebuilderAdvanced. So how do I get the old note to have the same spacing and the new features of new NoteBuilder? So what you can do is, if you want to convert, you can convert this note into a new NoteBuilder note. Okay, and I was going to go through and run through quickly to show you how to do that. From here, what we'll do is I'll go to Note and I will go to Create. So this Create button here also opens up, as you can see there, Launch NoteBuilder. So I'm just going to left click on the Create button, and that's going to open up NoteBuilder for me. That opens up NoteBuilder in exactly the same way as going to other docs and NoteBuilder here. It makes no difference. Once it's open, again, you can see there, it just navigates straight back. Now, when you look at these notes here, I'll just go to my loads quickly. Here is a KPI. So what let me do, I've got a debtors note quickly, which I need to load in, ready for this. So give me a second and I'll just load that in. There we go. So what I'm doing at the moment, just so you can see, I've got a note that we prepared for webinar, and I'm just taking that old note example, which you could see in the accounts, and I'm just going to drop that into my resale custom folder in my CaseWare directory. And then what I just do quickly is just close down NoteBuilder and reopen it. And just at that stage, reopen. At that stage, then what we should be able to see is when we go to load, we should see the old style debtors note that I'm just showing you on the screen there within the accounts. There we go. So your old NoteBuilder content will still be accessible. Okay, so you'll be able to load this into the new NoteBuilder. Now, the guidance from the developers is once you've built this in, okay, so again, this is going to have the same space here that we need from the old style NoteBuilder, which is going to be slightly wider, and then that gap that's going to be slightly higher. Okay, so what we want to do is at this stage, load your old NoteBuilder in, and then go to Profile, and we'll select to save that profile. Now, this profile screen is these profiles of what CaseWare is set up in some instances to help you speed along and get the initial steps of creating those underway. However, what you can do as well is save your own profiles. So here, what you can see here is we've got the note. So you can see the preview of the note. Down here, it's based upon CaseWare's standard 2-column table. Well, I'm going to change that now to say, well, I don't want it to be called that. I'm going to, in this case, Tom's my manager. Tom's the one who wants this different style debtors note, and he wants me to separate accrued income. So I'll put the apostrophe there as well, Tom's note. And I'm going to give it the same title, description of the profile note as well. Well, actually, this. And this one is going to be first version and then second. So this is going to be version 1.2 effectively. Okay. And then I can select update. Now, once I do that, what I can then be able to do is from my profile, I'll be able to load it. So looking at load here, I'll be able to then load this profile onto other notes. So there's Tom's note here. And these are the profiles that CaseWare build for us to help us get the first steps of that note underway. Okay, so we've got our fixed assets, we've got our SOCI and so on, but we'll come back to these in a moment. Now, once we've got this layout here for Tom's note, what we want to do is actually discard the old note. Okay, so we'd go to KL, we'd select new. Once we select new, we're going to say, yes, we're sure we want to get rid of the old one. And can you see there's a little bit of a difference here? We don't have those green text sections at the top. So the old NoteBuilder note, just to bring it back, we'll have these green text inputs at the top where you can go through and enter text. But you can see here on the old NoteBuilder ones, can you see that blue text? Actually, let me zoom in a little bit. So they're old text. So what we used to do is we used to turn this into printable text by pressing the button on the toolbar, and now it's printable text. Well, with new NoteBuilder notes, slightly different and much more in line with what we're used to within AccountsAdvanced. Well, we select within the note, we turn the user text section on, then the green cell appears, and then we can enter in text. Okay, just that's the most obvious visual difference. So I just wanted to point that out whilst we're there. Now, back to the point I was actually talking about, which is loading the profile. Now we've got this structure in, we've loaded the new NoteBuilder structure. We can go to profile, load. And at that stage, we're going to go down and we're going to scroll down to Tom's note. And we're going to select Tom's name and we're going to select confirm. Now, it doesn't look massively different, does it? Apart from the obvious that I just showed you, the user text section up here, it doesn't look a lot different. However, let's go through and let's give it a title quickly. There you go, Tom's new letter note. And then let's go through and save that. And then again, and then press OK. All right, so back in the accounts now, what we'll be able to do is load in Tom's new debtor note. Now, actually, we won't be able to load it straight away because the accounts document was already open. Okay, and if I went to this add button here, you'll see that Tom's new note's not available yet. What we need to do really is have this document update the knowledge libraries. So it does that by either closing and reopening. You don't need to apply the knowledge libraries, but it just needs to update the knowledge libraries in the background. So at this stage here, then what I'm going to do is a little trick, go to tools, and I'm just going to do a section update. Let's click in a note. Let's click within CaseWare's note and do a section update. It won't work on the note builder note. And I was going to say yes to that. Now, at this stage here, I'm going to deselect these because I don't actually want to take any updates. So when you're here, guys, you don't need to take them. Just get to this screen, deselect all, press OK. Once you press OK, then that Tom's new note will be available. Okay. Just executing script down the bottom left-hand side. Let's wait for that to be finished. Okay. All right. So there we go. Let's scroll back up. I'll skip back to our debtors. All right. So there is our debtors note there. That's the CaseWare one. This is the old one. And what I'm going to do is I'll click on the old note and I'm going to go to note. And I'm just going to go through and use that, the add button, select user defined. And then from there, what you should see is, there we go. There's our new notes. Okay, Tom's new debtors note just sitting there. Okay, so if you ever get to that list and it's not refreshed because you've got the accounts open and you're creating a note in Note Builder, just to go to tools, force the knowledge library screen to open and then just deselect all, close it, and then that list will update for you. All right, so once we're here then, visually, the first thing we can see that's different really is these user text areas. Again, if I type text in, you can see that it's not going to print. The other difference there is that you can see that I entered that 500 manually. So we know that's the old one. This is the new one. Again, if I just, probably better, there we go. There we go. Can we see there trying to zoom in to make it a little bit easier, probably not making it easier at all. Right, so this is the column widths. So you can see the old one above. You can see my mouse cursor there to the new one below. Let's go into the print preview actually. This probably might make it a little bit easier. There we go. So there's those notes there. So you can see that width there is completely different. Okay, so this now is much more in line with the width down below. So that gap in between. Now we could change this, the column width there is slightly wider, but we can then adjust these column widths now as well. One of the advantages of the new note builder is that it gives you more access to change column widths and bullet points within enable editing. So now what we can do within a note, if I just go back to my debtors note, is I can change these column widths. So I'm going to go into enable editing, view enable editing. Now, at the moment, my mouse cursor is on the old note, okay? There we go. So I just type in the password in, which went on the other screen. All right, so when we're there then, you can see my mouse is now, I'm clicking into the old note. So the old note builder note. You see here, I don't get any options here for the rulers. Whereas in the new style note, I can go in there and now I can adjust column widths, move things around, and you get a little bit more control over it, okay? Also, what we can do is if I was in the Tom's new debtors note, which is being built in the new update from NotebuilderAdvanced, I can then go through and add in user text paragraphs. And from here, I can then go to home and there's my bullet points. So I can now enter in text and then drop down to the new bullet point. Whereas in the old note builder, Again, you can see here from the toolbar that bullet point button is grayed out. Okay, so there's lots of little bits like that have been included in there that are definitely going to help you create the notes that you want to create. Now, one of the areas as well, as I mentioned, sorry, not the right option there. And I mentioned to you earlier about Tom, was the new option for the extra button to hide content if it's in a small filing copy. So again, from the new note that we've created, I can now go to this button up on the toolbar. It's found in the note section. It's the extra button, and it will allow me to choose whether I hide this within the abridged accounts, abbreviated accounts, or whether I want to hide it within a small filing copy. Okay. So that is now available within those NoteBuilder notes as well. So you've got bullet points and so on.
Tony, we noticed very briefly earlier when you were looking at profiles within NoteBuilder that there was a KPI note there.
Yes.
What would that look like? What does how does NoteBuilder deal with KPIs?
It allows you to build the tables a little bit quickly, a lot faster than the traditional content within the director's report or strategic report, depending where you are placing it. So this is the standard section with the strategic report. So what you can do with NoteBuilder is you can build your own KPI section or your own KPI table. There's going to be a webinar coming up, Tom, which will go through the functionality and shows you how to build the tables from start to finish in a lot more detail than obviously we're going to get into today. However, once you're there, users will then be able to create a KPI NoteBuilder note, load it in underneath the CaseWare key financial performance indicators section. So if that's not activated, activate it from the prep table, and then you'll be able to go through and load in a KPI note. Now, at first glance, when you load this in, it's going to be slightly, you're going to want to play around with some areas. Potentially, you don't want to show 2018 figures. So just again, from the toolbar functionality, users can skip those. They can go through and get rid of totals. I think the biggest thing probably for most people here would be to make sure that we move this over to the left-hand side. And there's a nice indent button that we can move that table over to the left-hand side. This is skip text, so that won't print. That's just there really for a memo for me. However, now if you went to print preview, you could then go through and there you go. And you just have the table in there as such. Okay, and then the spacing, you can have the analysis above in that into the user text section there. The good thing about that as well, not particularly for the KPIs you wouldn't use it for, but maybe other areas that again, you can use that extra, there we go, that extra button here. So for say Irish clients and so on that may want to create areas within the director's strategic report, but not be shown on that small filing copy or the bridge copy, they can go to the extra button here, say the UK clients, and then just hide it when filing. So if we switch it to the other version, it will automatically hide it for us to keep it a little bit tidier. So that's what that's there for. Anyone wants more information on that, because again, I only just loaded a note in, it's not overly helpful. There is a NoteBuilder webinar coming up where you can join, and it will go through the basics of NoteBuilder in a training session examples. And then I think there's an advanced one that's coming up as well. Okay. All right. So there was one last thing I wanted to show, and it says decimal numbers. I could show it here quickly if that's all right, if you've got just about enough time. The decimal numbers. So from here, again, these, if I set this up at the moment, that's going to follow the same structure or the same layout as when I bring it into the account. So if the accounts are rounded and show decimal numbers, then this note will be. However, as I said, if you want it to be using percent on share capital, where you do want to show decimal numbers for that note only, because again, the figures are lower, then what you can do is you can go to configure now, and it will allow you to change the style of these cells. Now, I'm just going to select all the cells in the table, and probably totals as well, press confirm. And what you will have is this new format group. So multi-col will keep the style or the decimal numbers in the same format as the accounts. However, if I change it to none, then I can set this note up to have, say, 2 decimal points. And so then you've got your 2 decimal points here. If I was to bring this into the accounts now, it would stay, those decimal numbers would still show on screen, so it'll give you an extra level of detail there. All right, that's the last bit I want to cram in. Thank you very much for that. Let me just go through that demo. I'm just going to hand you back really to Tom and the slide. So
Thanks, Tony. Yes, so we did fill up the half an hour, so we are out of time, I'm afraid. But if you need any more information, then please let us know, either in the chat or we've got the feedback survey at the end, which we'd very much appreciate you completing for us to help us shape our future sessions. But you've got the opportunity there to put in any queries or ask us to direct you to any additional guidance. So as I say, you can continue to use the chat field in the Q&A during the wrap up here. But if we jump to the next slide, we should see, we've got the webinar schedule there. As Tony said, we've got the Note Builder series of webinars. So starting with the introduction on the 30th of September, we've got an Excel focused webinar in between, but this schedule is updated all the time. So if you go to caseware.co.uk/events, you'll see the schedule there, the agendas, and you can register to attend. If you're already on the website having a browse, then you can go to resources at the top, and then events is there for you. In terms of our recordings and our previous sessions, they go onto our YouTube channel usually first, and then that also then gets added onto the knowledge base with any supporting information. Our YouTube channel, Client Services CaseWare UK Limited. If you subscribe there and set your notifications, we'll let you know when there's new videos added. Lots of quick vids, CaseWare webinars playlist as well. And we'll also let you know of upcoming sessions along with other news on the Client Services LinkedIn page. Another plug, if you go to the LinkedIn page there, you can follow us. And finally, just to reiterate, kb.caseware.co.uk for all your guidance, and the download area is there if you have access to that. If you have the relevant level of access, you can download the ePack from there. If you don't, speak to your nearest super user or your IT department. So that brings us to the end of today's session. Thank you for joining us. We hope you enjoyed it. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day and your weekend. Take care, and we'll see you on the next webinar.
See you later, guys. Thank you very much. Thanks, Tom.